Pittsburgh Steelers had an eventful offseason, to say the least. Le'Veon Bell gone, Antonio Brown gone, and not a whole lot to replace them. Dante Moncrief, the new addition via free agency. They drafted Deontay Johnson in round 3, and the Steelers have shown over the years an excellent ability to find great receivers between rounds 3 and 6, and a lot of that, I think, has to do with their quarterback, Chris.
Yes.
And I think the most significant development this offseason, given that Roethlisberger was musing about retirement just a couple of years ago, he signs a 2-year extension. He's under contract for 3 years. Kevin Colbert, the GM of the team, told us that there's no expiration date on Ben Roethlisberger, and I think they want to keep him around as long as he physically can play because they know what it's like to not have Ben Roethlisberger. It was a long 20 years between Terry Bradshaw and Ben Roethlisberger, and they do not want to go back to those days of a revolving door, groping and searching and hoping, and maybe we find a quarterback somewhere. They love having that franchise guy, and I think we need to start. I know there are other issues, calling players out. That's not a good look, but when it comes time to play and throw the football accurately, he can do it. Unlike few others.
Yes. I mean, I know I take a lot of flack sometimes because I say he's borderline, top 10 quarterback of all time. I mean, hey, he's been playing football for 15 years. He's gone to the playoffs for 10 out of those 15 years. He's gone through teams with different receivers, different running backs, no pass protection there in the 2007, 8, 9, 10 seasons, and it still didn't matter. Big Ben and company were dangerous as hell. I just look at all that. And I think Big Ben Roethlisberger is still a phenomenal football player. But he does make a few head-scratching mistakes every year to where we go, come on, at year 15, you shouldn't do that anymore, like the end of the Denver game or the Patriots game 2 years ago. But I think the Antonio Brown situation, of course, is where you start it. How can they replace him, right? You talked about some of the names. Hey, this is a Pittsburgh Steelers team that's phenomenal. It really is. When you look at the roster, there's not a lot of weak spots. There's really not. And you look at wide receiver and go, gosh, no more Antonio Brown, but hey, Juju Smith-Schuster, let's not forget, led the team in receiving. You mentioned Dante Moncrief. Think that's a great signing. The third-round pick, Deontay Johnson, who you also mentioned. Mike, he was one of my, favorite receivers in the draft. He's a guy that is ready to go right away. I think he is NFL polished, good route runner, can make plays happen after the catch. You mentioned it. They have an eye for scouting wide receiver position. It'll be James Washington's second year, but I really think they're going to be okay on offense regardless, whether Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell are not there. I still think this is going to be one of the better ones in the league. And the only issue I had on defense was that middle linebacker spot. And they made the big trade for Devin Bush. They signed a Mark Barron in free agency, so I think that can help out a position of weakness for them this year.
Traded up 10 spots from 20 to 10 to get Devin Bush. And the last time they traded up for a defensive guy in round 1, it was Troy Polamalu. So they find the guys they want, and they go get them. Devin Bush already showing signs of promise as that replacement for Ryan Shazier. One of the things that Kevin Colbert has admitted they didn't do enough last year to address. That loss of Shazier was not countered by the things they did in the offseason. Chris, back to the receiver position.
Yeah.
There was something Ben Roethlisberger said earlier this week when he had that interview with KDKA-TV in Pittsburgh, and he was explaining what he really meant when he called out Antonio Brown for flattening his route when Roethlisberger threw the ball right into the awaiting arms of the Denver defensive lineman. He said, look, this is part of the reality. Antonio Brown is constantly double and triple teamed. What I really meant was I should have thrown it to Juju Smith-Schuster because he was single covered. So now that Brown's gone, Smith-Schuster isn't going to be single covered anymore, right? No. He's going to be the guy that they take away. Is he going to be able to still get open when he's getting the Antonio Brown treatment from defenses?
Yeah, he will be. I mean, first off, it's a pretty creative offense. They do a good job of, finding ways to even get Antonio Brown the ball the last few years when teams were trying to take him away. But I think the big thing is, Mike, for me, is they do have enough on offense still that's, if you put too many eggs into the let's stop the Juju Smith-Schuster, game plan or all the plays that are associated for him within that offense, I look at it and still go, guys like Dante Moncrief, Eli Rogers, Vance McDonald at, tight end, I think is one of the better tight ends in football right now. And you talk about, again, James Conner, Jalen Samuel at running back. They find ways to get them infused in the pass game as well. So they just got to find the formula that works. And I think ultimately the guys you're going to see on the field at wide receiver for them more than any will be Moncrief, Juju Smith-Schuster, and I think you're going to see Dante Johnson, the guy that works the slot, is going to be kind of the yards after catch type guy.
And remember, James Washington, a receiver they drafted in
Yeah.
the second round in 2018. He was a disappointment last year, but it's hard to do much when you've got Antonio Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster. They need him to step up in 2019. You mentioned running back. You know, they have James Conner, they have Jalen Samuels. They added Benny Snell from Kentucky. And some of the things he said at rookie minicamp, it tells me he's going to resonate with that fan base. And Kevin Colbert made it clear they're not looking for a revolving door of running backs necessarily. If there's a guy who emerges, he's going to become the guy. So you've got Conner, Samuels, and Snell all in that competition to prove that they can be the guy. They were spoiled by Le'Veon Bell where you could go with that workhorse. And yes, they want to have depth now. They want to be protected against another Le'Veon Bell type of a holdout and defection. But Snell is a guy who fascinates me. Round 4, when you've got a couple of good running backs already and you use pick number 122 on a running back, that's a position where you can find guys any round or after the draft is over. That tells me they see something there with Benny Snell. And he's a guy to keep an eye on as, they put the pads on in July and we start to see who's going to earn those reps when it's time to play the game.
Yeah, a little bowling ball of a running back. I mean, he's 5'10", 225, got good power. Didn't impress at the combine. That's, I think, probably one of the reasons he was even that far down the line. Regardless, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers look at it and go, hey, running back's an important position. We know that. James Conner, last year was his first year, as really being the workhorse. And, of course, he got hurt for a number of games and wasn't able to play. So, they want to have some insurance policies there, too. And I think that's probably how they look at Jalen Samuel and Benny Snell as part of the rotation and insurance in case something happens to James Conner.
All right, quick break. Draft time next. Inspired by Juwan Howard becoming the coach at Michigan. Best homecomings in the NFL. We'll do that right after this on PFT Live.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.